Good morning, night. In the last vlog, I let you know I was trying the Strong Fit Nutrition Protocol and that I would report my findings to you in the next vlog. Well, this is the next vlog. Truth is, I didn't want to film this vlog. I've been procrastinating it for days. It's been making me very anxious, so much so I had to go toss some sandbags. So I had three choices: to lie to you, not to film it, or to tell you the truth, which is hard to do because everything I do is judged and scrutinized. You guessed it, I'm an outlier. And at first I felt really badly about being an outlier. How come the Strong Fit Nutrition Protocol worked for everybody else in the tribe except for me? But then I realized we're not all supposed to be clones of each other, because what fucking fun would that be? I also realized that being an outlier is actually an opportunity to raise some questions, because I have questions. I have lots of questions, and maybe somebody has answers. The value of the outlier lies not in their becoming more like us or us like them. Their value lies in the fact of their difference, the insight which can only emerge from that place of difference, and our own willingness to learn from it, even though they, the outliers, will remain genuinely different. None of us and no one ideology could possibly have a monopoly on wisdom. In fact, real wisdom is the composite of multiple approaches that come from a range of people and places. In case you're new to following me, damn good first impression. No, in case you're new to following me, I am part of the Strong Fit tribe. I'm a certified Strong Fit coach, and I have been experimenting with Strong Fit principles since December 2016. And it has dramatically improved my movement and well-being. And that's why I spend my time trying to figure out how to make it as user-friendly as possible for people who perhaps feel the same way I did when I first started, a little bit intimidated and overwhelmed. I've been an online influencer for over a decade and an intermittent faster for 7 years. Every damn day, baby. It works super well for me. I eat a varied diet consisting of seasonal fruits and veggies, lean protein, fermented foods like yogurt, and healthy fats, including fish oil supplementation. I practice moderation, the 80-20 rule, and I don't demonize foods. I enjoy treats in moderation. In fact, my favorite treat of the day is BSM protein bars because they're so freaking good. I very rarely eat sugary food. It's really just on special social occasions. And I do not drink any alcohol, ever. I do not track my calories and macros. I've been able to be very consistent because this flexible approach is just super simple for me. And that's really the secret to my 8-pack, 365 days a year after all these years. But it's not just about aesthetics. I feel really good on this diet. I'm completely asymptomatic. I have no issues falling asleep or staying asleep. And I have no brain fog. And I have no issues maintaining my weight at 134 pounds plus or minus a pound. So let me tell you what happened when I tried the Strong Fit protocol. But first you need to know this is not the first time I have tried it. I experimented with it in September last year for 4 weeks, and I ended up gaining 9 pounds and experiencing a lot of food-related anxiety, very similar to what I experienced when I was competing in fitness competitions, but I'll get into that a little bit later on in the vlog. I decided I would try the protocol again. I agree with so many things that Julian says. It just makes sense. Furthermore, I felt more prepared because I've been studying Strong Fit Nutrition under Julian in the mentorship program. So I tried it for 2.5 weeks. I was pretty excited about it. And, well, these are the outcomes. I made a list. So I started at 134 pounds, and 2.5 weeks later, I had gained 4 pounds. I'm 138 pounds. Now you might be like, oh, who cares, Sarah? Well, actually, I do care because it has a negative impact on my sport. I do pole fitness, circus training, gymnastics, and weight gain is just not conducive to my sport. I'm really struggling. My lips, fingers, and feet became chronically swollen to a point where I had to take my shoes off because it was becoming so uncomfortable. I didn't mind the lips being swollen though. I started having nightmares, which is odd because I almost never have nightmares. And I had this dream that I witnessed something really savage happening to my cat Bean, and he ended up dying in my arms. And that was when I decided to stop the protocol. That was too much. I started developing really painful chin acne right here, like the kind that grows on the inside and it's really painful. And that was really peculiar because I normally have a very clear complexion. I was so freaking tired, and I was sleeping more than ever. I was oversleeping 9 hours a night, and I still felt so exhausted all day long. And normally I'm totally fine on 6 to 7 hours of sleep. So that was a red flag. I started having cravings for the first time, which is odd because I rarely consume sugary foods. It's never in my house. I don't buy it. But with the Strong Fit protocol, I had purchased chocolate milk and I had no off button with it. I just wanted to drink it nonstop. I had multiple bouts of diarrhea. I'm sorry. My food-related anxiety was through the roof. I was demonizing protein bars, fruit, and even the beans in my chili recipe. I was really confused. I didn't know what to eat anymore because food is typically a mixture of all three macronutrients, and all my recipes are a mixture of all three macronutrients. So I was really struggling with trying to figure out how to segregate my macros, because on this protocol you do segregate your macros. So I'm sponsored by a meal delivery service in downtown Toronto called Protein Chefs, and they had sent me all of these meals, which are fantastic. And my mom had come over to visit, and she was watching me as I was opening each container and separating the high glycemic carbs and protein into different containers. And she's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" She's like, "I haven't seen you act like this since the times when you were competing. Sometimes what you need is your mother to yell at you." At that moment I realized what I was doing was far from practical, because I was already having anxiety over going out to dinner or having family meals, because I knew it would be a mixture of all three macros. I was even having anxiety over posting all the amazing recipes I've made over the years for my followers, because they're a mixture of all three macros. Now, the Strong Fit diet is a high-fat diet, high in saturated fat, which historically is something I have not consumed very much of. I do not care for heavy cream or coconut oil or coconut milk or cheese. And the pancetta, I couldn't stomach it. I mean, it's pork, and I'm a Jew, and I don't eat pork, and it was just way too salty for me. Cashews and nuts are unwise for me because historically I overconsume them, as do most people who are willing to be honest with me. I also struggle with the recommended carbs for training, such as rubbing honey in your mouth. Hello, I'm a dentist, and I actually don't care for honey. And the chocolate milk was just a bad idea for me because I overconsumed it. I wish I could have had more positive outcomes to report to you. I realize this has worked well for a lot of people, but it didn't work for me. I think there are a lot of variables that need to be taken into consideration when evaluating subjective dietary reports. And that's why I think you should take everything that I've said with a grain of salt. And I also think it's why you should take everything the success stories tell you with a grain of salt. Why? Because we aren't you. Furthermore, what's the backstory with these success stories? Were these people as regimented and consistent with their training and nutrition as I was prior to initiating the Strong Fit Nutrition Protocol? Or were these people training inconsistently and whining and dining every night in restaurants? Because if you suddenly do a 180 and become regimented with your training and diet, hells yeah, you're going to lean out and feel a whole lot better. So here are my questions for you, and if you have answers, please comment below. 1. Why do I have to feed my gut ecosystem exactly the same way you feed your gut ecosystem in order to ideally train my gut flora? I mean, I wouldn't feed a rainforest ecosystem exactly the same way I would feed a desert ecosystem, and vice versa. Just saying. 2. I realize fasting is touted as an extreme, but I've been fasting for 16 to 20 hours a day since 2012, and I've been breaking my fast at 4 p.m. for the past 7 years. So I think we could all agree that fasting is not an extreme for me, but rather my center. Now, during the times when you are consuming saturated fats, which is touted as your center, I'm still fasted. So what's the difference? Aren't we both in our centers? So why do I need to stuff saturated fats into my body, especially if they don't agree with me? 3. Based on my body's negative reaction to the high-fat diet, I'm not convinced this is what my gut ecosystem needs. So why are fats being touted as the ideal macronutrient to consume the majority of the time? And why is it assumed that my gut flora are fucked up and need training because I reacted poorly to the strong fit diet? Let's all keep in mind that I was completely asymptomatic prior to initiating the diet. 4. Can you explain a protocol for segregating macros in real life? Because most food and recipes are a combination of all 3 macronutrients. For me personally, this protocol was not compatible with my recipes or with restaurant and family dinners, and it always ended up making me feel like a failure because I couldn't adhere to it. Is this approach a good idea for people who have a history of orthorexia nervosa? Because I used to have orthorexia nervosa, which is a fixation with righteous eating. And I can tell you that I was falling into old familiar shoes with this approach to segregating macros. Suddenly my diet was becoming a big deal. It was preoccupying all my thoughts, and I was demonizing food. So here are my opinions. Hey, it's my vlog, so my opinions. One type of diet will work better for some than others. The magic is in the process of experimentation, establishing what makes you feel good. And you will know in 2 to 3 days if you feel worse. I think it was a blessing in disguise that I was an outlier, and here's why. Because it's making you think. The problem is that people aggregate in opinion self-reinforcing bubbles on the internet, and they don't look at opposing data, and so they become polarized. That's why when it comes to diet, I think you should base it on how you feel. After all, this is the study of you. So experiment with your diet and see where your boundaries are. See what your reactions are. Don't make your life harder than it needs to be. Trust how you feel and stop obsessing over the research or what your peers are doing. There is no one magic dietary protocol. And because your gut is constantly changing, you probably need diet variation anyway instead of one rigid dietary approach. Is your diet practical? Can you do it every day? Or do you end up blowing your diet and feeling like a failure? Is plan A the only option for winning? What if you keep failing at plan A? Then what? I've learned the hard way to steer clear of diets with strict protocols because I could never adhere to them. I mean, who the hell can? You're not a robot. And the travesty is that you don't even have to be that precise in order to succeed. So the fewer the rules, the better, because rules get broken, and that leads to anxiety. But that doesn't mean you can get away with eating donuts all day long either. There's no denying that your diet can create a healthy environment for your gut bacteria to live in, but it could also create an unhealthy environment for them to live in. That's why I think different gut ecosystems will require different diets. And if I'm right, I suspect the diet will need to be tailored to provide what the gut ecosystem needs. And that's why I think it's foolish to say that there is one level of carb intake that is healthiest for everyone. So what am I currently doing for my diet? Well, what I've always done because it works really well for me. It makes me feel good. But I've also been able to incorporate some concepts from the Strong Fit Nutrition Protocol, such as making an effort not to eat to change my behavior, but rather to take action to change my behavior. I mean, I know I'm not the only one who's guilty of eating when you're bored. I'm not eating as much protein as I used to, and I'm going to see how I feel, and I'll adjust based on how I feel. I'm currently eating protein and vegetables for my last meal of the day. And if I do end up consuming a high glycemic carb before bed, then I will see how that affects my sleep. And if I end up sleeping like ass, then I know not to eat high glycemic carbs before bed. I'm still intermittent fasting exactly the same way. I've always done it because it makes me feel good. I'm still eating quality foods, so I don't have to be so caught up in following a specific diet. 80% of what I eat is whole, fresh foods. I consume stevia and Splenda sparingly. I will assume they are guilty until proven innocent. I'm eating yogurt with probiotics, and I'm taking fish oil, helpful for memory. I wanted to share some advice from somebody who's been in the fitness industry for 40 years. Mike O'Hearn, also known as Titan. I first met him when he was 40. Now he is 50 years old.
Everything is not 100% for sure, okay? The only thing that's for sure is that you can get better if you are consistent, day in and day out. And when I mean consistent, I mean 7 days a week. I mean every month. Again, a lot of you are going, well, wait a minute, I've been dieting for 2 months. Turn that into 3 months. Turn that into 6 months. Turn that into a year. And then turn that into 40 years. That's the kind of consistency I'm talking about that I want you to do. That way you can get better with time. You can be better in time and better in life.
A practical dietary approach will facilitate consistency. The correct diet for you is the one that allows you to win and feel your best. And last but not least, I always say this: everything in moderation, even moderation in moderation. We're coming to the end of this vlog, so here's my final advice. What is one thing that you can start doing differently today that will make a difference? And in 3 days' time, you'll know if you feel better or worse. Well, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. And if you didn't like this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Thank you for your support. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next vlog. Until then, stay out of trouble and shine on, you crazy diamonds.